Hey, Laura J. Unbraiding the truth today by actually working with the seasons and the holidays, where we are under the days of the holly, which was used as the staff for the Magi to command our attention. Okay, so unbraided. I have been moving the tomatoes out because they are done for the season, and I am doing it for the marigolds too. I decided to leave a little tomato intact because I want to see if in fact they could continue to do something beautiful after they have been froze. And as I was pulling down my grandma's fuchsia colored morning glories, I realized they're seeds. And it reminds me of the other night when we were sitting talking in the house in the living room, and Steffi made a comment about somebody's post that she didn't speak to on there because she didn't want to have to deal with the lashback that comes from stating something obvious to somebody who is saying, hey, we didn't actually end up cutting these up for Halloween, so if you want these pumpkins, then come and get them, and before we throw them out. And she made the comment about, like, don't you realize that's food? And I just thought it was so fascinating because as I was taking these down, I was going to throw them out, and then I realized all of these little guys are the seeds that my grandma had left an envelope with Morning Glory fuchsia color. And so it's like these I looked at all season and thought of her every time because they were her seeds that I got to use, which is where I want to plant in your consciousness, which is how I seed my legacy. I want you to start to see that sometimes the older seeds they will appear to have lost their utility, but they have not. It's just we have forgot how to utilize the skills of those who have spent a lifetime accruing these skills and then waste away in concentration camps for the elderly. I started out actually in university in gerontology and social work after a social studies year. Oh, and there's even a purple flowers still here. Oh, how beautiful. Yeah, I was in social work and gerontology when I was first at McMaster University in second year before I almost dropped out and then switched and got an English degree instead because my dad said I wasn't dropping out of university because I'd regret it. And so he demanded that I choose something else. And so because I respected my dad's opinion and he had supported me on things that were important to me, and this, he said, like, you will regret it. So no, you're choosing a different program, but you are not dropping out of university. I didn't go to university, and it was one of the biggest regrets. Or maybe not what he said, but basically he told me I would regret it. So I decided to go with English because the anthropology class that I was interested in would have required me take one of the 3 courses that I had dropped in second year, first semester, when I was taking a 6-course load. And living with a man I thought I was going to marry and have babies with and drop out of university and then repeat my mom's pattern of staying at home with the kids that we had while taking in others in order to pay for my being there with ours to then bring in others in order to justify and support the family and also the community, because when you rear another's child, that child remembers you, the family remembers you, you build connections, you build energetic attachments to memories. And that's very significant because within the double entry booking trust system of debts that we accrue between one another who cause harm, loss, or fraud to the other, and then remember the one whose name we knew was who did that to us, and then sets us into the victim well, the victim at the bottom looking up to the rescuer or persecutor. But within the trust system, it flips house. So now we have the pyramid with the first person properia persona, office of man of proper capacity, properia persona. That's your proper face in the public. The properia persona, first person position, is the one who is able to use an I, me, my, us, we, ours. Those pronouns are first person. The first person gets to tell their own story. But when the second person, you, yourself, yourselves, you tell my story for me, now I am she in your story because you would be the I telling my story as she who is featured in the story you tell, which is why storytelling is so important and why I have been honing my craft as a storyteller and wordsmith. I break down words in an unusual way because the us, you, all fruct in a usufructory system has us drop from that first person position within the properia persona of the public to no longer be your natural person, which is the first person, who has a constitution, and because it's about what you're constituted of. What are your constitutions? What are your principles? What are the morals that you stand for? What are you willing to take a stand for? That is really what our morality is about. But morality makes it a philosophy that is separate from what it was before it was packaged. And that's important for us to understand because this is basically how our principles of our heart then are transferred to becoming the principles in this interlocking trust system that has two additional positions within the victim, triangle flipped upright, where the first person might think that I have power, except for if I don't realize or notice that I'm going to be displaced to the legal person, statutory person, substitute person, exchequer, executor. Those titles, statuses, personages, then represent me as a legal person instead of a natural person, which is still part of the same interlocking trust system. So those who try to say that natural law is different from the common law, you're absolutely right. And it's also about recognizing that natural law might have been coined and capitalized by the one who received a sainthood for going under the hood of Rome. The reality of my existence. That's the real Rome. The reality of my existence means I stay as the first person in my story, not a third person, with you telling my story for me as the second person agent trustee. The one deemed responsible for the real or unreal property rights. First, what is real, which is the man who's been swapped to the other side but didn't know it, as the one who will pay for the trip that we're all going on as the captain, crew, and passenger of those who step into a ship or hood. Once we're under the hood of a capped collective consciousness, well, then it's no good for us to try to speak for ourselves when I have had my wills, rights, and writs surrendered to the trust of another who doesn't have my best interest at heart. Like what I experienced in 2019 when I was locked up under the Mental Health Act, where I realized that if we don't get our act together, the Mental Health Act can quickly become the Health Act. If we are able to be displaced, and this part of my story came in there because I was denied the right to speak to a lawyer without a psychiatrist's approval, and none happened to be on duty while I needed them. So I sat in the trenches waiting to be judged, observed, noticed, except for what was noticeable was when I passed out nearby the nurse's station in front of one who I had just been interacting with. And then when I turned away and my nervous system shut down out of fear, realizing he didn't hear what I was saying, he didn't care what I was saying. I was a number in a mental institution and I didn't matter. I was a patient to have things noted about. It was a crazy experience, truly. And it defined me for a really long time. But you know, if I hadn't have went through what I did, I wouldn't have necessarily believed those who also have. And if that's you and nobody believed you about the insanity that you experienced when you were dehumanized, depersonalized, and made to feel insignificant, like what I was told by professionals 3 times when asking for a simple thing, my lip balm. I was told each time, I'm doing something more important than your request. I'll get to it later if I have time. 3 times. First time, I thought, you're a little bit of a dick. And then, second time, hey, that's the same pattern. What? Third time, I wasn't getting my lip balm. And do you want to know what's interesting? Out of all of the items that I had brought with me from Simcoe General, where I spent overnight, before then I was wheeled to 10th floor where I had asked for my lip balm, experienced the avoidance of eye contact by professionals, was told that it didn't matter where I was going next by a female guard or nurse who told me that it didn't matter that my form didn't match as I had instructed. It need be changed because I was under a Form 1, and when I realized what I was in, I looked at my paperwork and fortunately had registered a corporation and also was in the process of dissolving my corporation at the time all of this was happening. So it was fresh in mind that my name and address had to match exactly, and they didn't. Because my dad had actually given my information when he came to the hospital, and he put my address as the correct one at my grandparents'. But I didn't know how long I was going to be there, and I didn't want to have to change things. And so I had actually registered my driver's license to my dad's house next door. And because I had done that, which is so fascinating and relevant to another situation that I will not speak to now, but now notice this pattern and the significance of that. My address was listed as my dad's house on my documents, which meant that it being at my grandparents', I was tuning into the pattern of getting lost in the system, and it terrified me. And so I refused to go down for bad paperwork. And so I told the nurse that my address needed to be at 867 instead of 831. And because of that difference in numbers, when they then reissued it, corrected, they had removed my postal code. I still have the paperwork, the 2 forms that I was given. The very first one with the wrong address, and then the second one where they had actually removed parts of my name in order to make it not the same as it was before, and a slight detail in my address as well, wondering if I would be able to tell that it didn't do exactly as asked. And then when I told the nurse about this and said that it needed to be changed before I was shipped out because I didn't want to get lost in paperwork, and she laughed in my face and said, it's not going to matter where you're going, which was Waterfall 1, West 5th, Hamilton up the mountain, St. Joseph's. Beautiful facility. Beautiful facility, truly, but still contained. And underneath of 2 floors where inmates were held, able to observe the court where I went out to go sunbathe because I was trapped anyway, so I might just as well use the space well, except for I couldn't tell the threats and dangers that would come from having voyeurs of private things. I don't know that I exposed myself specifically, but I did want to have even tan lines, so certainly would have dropped my top shoulders so they could be properly exposed. But my point is that actually showing private things in public or just sharing something private with another is to make them potentially public. And if we are not mindful of these things, it can really come back to bite us in the ass. It can really come back to bite us in the ass if we don't know what we've seeded, or what seeds we've collected, and then start planting them, because they could very well be the very things that were a nuisance or a pest to you the previous season, and then you collect those seeds instead of the ones next to them, which you really wanted, which were the really great feeling things that we enjoyed, the flavors of, the view of, we appreciate certain things over others, which is the only distinction between a weed and a flower, our preference. Weeds to one is flowers to another. One man's garbage is another's treasure. We have to see the power of what we discard because we no longer need it when someone else does. So, that lip balm I never got. Okay, I was taught a lesson. I realized that what I really wanted and needed, thought I did, could be used against me if someone was trying to mess with my head, fruct me over through a usufructory system where the usufruct is able to speak for the one who no more needs to be there because they can be spoken for by proxy. By proxy is the one who is the figurehead to represent the larger thing that we think we're standing with. Do you understand the significance of this in relation to JC? JC. We're going to talk about JC in the next video. We have an opportunity to gather for, connect for. I want to share these pieces with you using my stories as a storyteller, reminding you that I am able to tell my story, but I cannot tell yours for you. You must do that yourself, which is why responsible penmanship matters. Do you know how to write in cursive? Because the curse I've placed on you is none, for I wish not to. Boom. I want to help you see where you've been captivated under curses you didn't even know were keeping you in the cycle of samsara, or suffering, coming back to play with players that we harm because we didn't know the one who plays the game is not the player who plays the game. Because one is a fictional identity replica made in the likeness and image of the one playing the game, except for this is now the avatar used. So that is by proxy. I cannot step into this world, but certainly the camera can capture this part of me, this version of me in this moment, you see. And then bring it back to you and say that I'm live. Well, I am living. I am the woman with a living soul. For it is whole and incarnate within me, who must be the vessel and conduit to deliver a message to you without becoming the messenger. For the one who delivers the message, I'm going direct. I don't need to be called a messenger in order to do it. I'm doing it. You see? Driver, one who drives. Traveler, one who travels. Native, I am here. Native to these lands. This is where I was born. Not here in Ajax, but in London, Ontario I was. These are my native lands. I was born here. I'm an original. Who can say I'm not? Who can say that I am not an original? Or my lineage, those who I come from, who can say they are not originals? I dare to say they are the only versions of them, the only ones of them there ever has or will be. Dr. Seuss wrote a book about this. We are the only ones that can ever be the true and full us. So we must do our best to trust ourselves, to follow our hearts instead of our heads, to see the pole shift within us is from there to here. Greatest 18 inches. Dropping into your heart is where we must start, coming home to be the reality of my existence is that I'm the one who can rhyme. I don't do it all the time, but often, and it's annoying to some sometimes, depending on their mood and what they're moving through. I get it. I am Unscripted and unleashed, ain't no tie on me or ring, because the thing about marriage is when you get a carriage for the baby made from a new identity as the new you. The woman must change her name to say now she's part of the family tree of they, he who she married, or now however it goes, he, she can be a couple and then pair, and marriage is how the government documents it for their court roll, which is their manor roll. I've been under this for the last half year or more. I cannot tell no more, because in trying to help others see the manor roll and court roll are the ways we are counted as right for whatever country we are native to. Born here, that is where we're due to stand and raise up others and kiss all of it by keeping it simple, sweetie. Kissing means keep it simple, sweetie. Don't you try to blow anyone's mind. I want you to know identity. Confusion is real, relatable, ethical, altruistic, and loving to get clear on. And I'm not talking about gender identity specifically, because I want to say identity itself is just a box we check that's one-dimensional. We check that and we bring the entity in, just like the government or crown acts as the entity that comes in when we unite. Bless me. You might bless me and bless me, because you're the only one you can be. So why not be the full me, I, we? You can be the storyteller, it's cold out here when you're alone. So let's join forces and release all the forces from the farces. What do you say?